Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Catherine Robinson. The National Party has closed its investigation into claims of sexual harassment against former leader Barnaby Joyce, saying there is not enough evidence to proceed. West Australian Catherine Marriott went public with claims she'd been harassed by Mr Joyce and says she's extremely disappointed and dismayed with the findings. National Affairs correspondent Greg Jennett has more.
Now, Catherine Marriott is obviously none too pleased about the length of time and the process that was employed to investigate this complaint, remembering that it was housed within the New South Wales National Party as the relevant authority to look into a complaint that first became public knowledge in February of this year. Catherine Marriott, a figure within rural women's networks in the Western Australia, but also nationally as well. She's made the point in releasing her own statement about the failure to find anything adverse against Barnaby Joyce that this outcome simply isn't good enough, and she observes that it's taken fully 8 months for this process to get to this end point. During that time, she's had to make multiple trips to the east coast of Australia at her own expense to provide input into the investigation. Now, we don't have a copy of it, Kath, but Catherine Marriott does say that there was an observation in the findings that she, Catherine Marriott, was forthright, believable, open and genuinely upset about what had happened to her. So we have small aspects or extracts of the report, but we're trying to track down from the New South Wales National Party whether they have a statement. It's not apparent that the full report would ever be released publicly, but maybe the New South Wales National Party might like to speak for itself about what it found and what its processes were. At the moment, we only have Catherine Marriott breaking the news.
And Greg, what might come of all of this, do you think? Because she's coming down very hard on the findings, saying she's dismayed at the findings. Will anything come of this, do you think?
Well, that raises an interesting question, Kath, of whether this should have been handled by a political party. Are they good entities to investigate allegations of inappropriate conduct within their membership? I mean, the Greens have been through this exercise themselves with complaints among volunteers and party members about behaviour in their ranks. Right now, within the federal Liberal Party room here in Canberra, there are complaints emanating about the conduct of members of the Liberal Party. So your question, Kath, goes to where could an aggrieved person like Catherine Marriott go next? Well, Barnaby Joyce himself had invited, or at least floated, the notion of police being called in to investigate this incident. He did that when he stood down as Deputy Prime Minister and Nationals leader earlier this year, citing the Catherine Marriott complaint as the straw that broke the camel's back. So I don't really have a precise answer on what, if anything, would happen to advance this complaint any further, Kath, but obviously it is unresolved, at least in the mind of the complainant, Catherine Marriott.
And is there any chance, in your expert opinion, that professional experts, external professional experts, could be brought in cases going forward in not just the Nationals, but the Liberal Party and even the Labor Party?
Yeah, look, I imagine it could be invoked, Kath, if that was chosen to be a good and independent dispute resolution process. Now, the Nationals didn't use such a mechanism, as I understand it, although I have to add, Kath, that we aren't entirely clear what the processes were behind the scenes, other than the fact that the New South Wales Nationals were handling all of this. But obviously with a corporation, with any associated or incorporated entity, a political party, it is open to bring in intermediaries or independent investigators to try and do these things at arm's length, and quite possibly to the satisfaction of at least one or two of the parties involved. That didn't happen in this case. Now, whether Catherine Marriott feels she has avenues left to explore, I'm not really certain, but she does also note, it's just over one page, this statement, Kath, but Catherine Marriott really says that this is not going to be good for people who want to get involved in political circles, broadly defined, because it's a bit of a turn-off when you have the experience. This is leaving aside the merits of the complaint itself, but just the experience about process alone seems to have been upsetting, to say the least, for Catherine Marriott.